Welcome to the Love How Deep podcast with Brian and Heather Mayer. Our purpose is to equip married couples like you with resources that rely on the transformative power of God's Word to strengthen your relationship.
Welcome back to another episode of Love How Deep. We are really excited. This is episode number 20. And
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. We're just rolling along here, and we thank you for listening to us and being along with us on our journey. And just a plug about our website, lovehowdeep.com. Go over there. It's where all of our podcast episodes are. We have lots of blog articles. We have
good resources.
Free resources, yes, which we'll talk about those on this episode. We also have an online course on forgiveness. So if there's a struggle, there's been a major betrayal of some sort between the two of you, or even just little nagging things that you feel like need forgiveness, go check that out. So we just have lots of things going on, and we're just so glad that you're along with us for this ride. And so in this episode, we are going to be talking about common pain points for married couples. And I would assume at some point or another, you've probably had some struggle with all of these. It depends on the severity. Sometimes these are just little sort of minor kind of difficulties, and other times they're pretty significant. So I would say, would you agree, Heather? We've probably run into issues with all of these at certain times or another.
I think so.
Yeah. And so this is a big one. The first one, go ahead and just start here. The first one's a big one, right?
Oh, am I first? Oh, my bad. I'm first. Here we go. No, you don't have to turn it off.
All right,
go
for
going?
it. Do it.
Okay.
Do it. We're not going to edit that out.
Yeah, we're not going to edit that out. Y'all just get the real deal.
Right.
Okay, so with this first one is time constraints. So think about it. You're both going and going and going for your jobs, and maybe you have to go in early and then you have to stay in late. Maybe you don't even work the same shifts, and you've got children, and your children have soccer practice, ballet, or a job that maybe you need to take them to because a car's broken down, like whatever it is. And then there's church. And then there's church ministries that you're involved in, or other community outreach things that you do. Anything and everything that you have going on, you have no time to even breathe. It feels like, how many of you can say, yep, that's me? Time constraints is very painful within your marriage, because you don't have time to do anything. You don't have time for each other to barely even give each other a good hug and a sincere, like, hey, how was your day? And how can I help you? What's going on with you? You don't even have time for that, because you're just two ships passing in the night.
Yeah, we've had times in our lives where that's been the case. Like, remember when you went back to school and you went to more or less like a night school, college, right?
I mean, that was,
And so it was something we both agreed upon, but it was not easy, not seeing each other as much.
It wasn't easy. And I remember that was the one drawback for me choosing that school, was because I was going to have to go to night school, like, I don't know, 6 to 9 or 9:30, 4 days a week. And then on Saturdays. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this for 2 years as a wife? And we had not been married that long, only
2 or 3 years?
A year, 1 year.
1 year?
1 year. And
wow.
We had our daughter who was 9 at the time. And I'm just going to be an absent person in this family. Like, that really disturbed me because I didn't want to lose our connection.
Yeah.
And so, one of the tips that I have is just to make sure that you are scheduling regular date nights, us time. You have to prioritize your relationship in the midst of all of the crazy. You have to. If you don't, then you do become complete strangers to each other. And when the kids are gone and you're retired or something, and you're looking at each other like, who are you? You're a stranger in my house. Like, you don't want that. And so to prevent that, to help prevent it, you've got to make sure that you're scheduling time with each other. Coffee in the morning together to talk about your day or your week, or maybe you both work from home and you can take lunch together. Maybe, once a week or every other week. I mean, we recommend once a week you go on a date night, but as often as you can, go out together and just be with each other. Put the phones away and don't talk about all the usual stuff, but talk about stuff that would be exciting when you're dating. It's not fun to talk about kids and finances and all of that, like I'm talking about like good stuff. Just get real with each other.
That's
Yeah.
good. And
Yeah.
speaking of that, next one we want to talk about is another common pain point is communication struggles. And, I've, asked a lot about what is kind of the most difficult thing that couples can struggle with. And it is usually I hear communication, right? I mean, that's typically what we hear.
Right.
It's just how to communicate with each other, because we are social creatures and we communicate not only through our words, but we also communicate through our body language and our tone. So when you think about communication, I don't want you to think about just about the words that you speak, but again, how are you coming across in your tone or your body language? And we were at church actually a couple days ago, and our pastor and his wife did a sermon on communication, and they talked about how sometimes we can make assumptions based upon what we see. And I know that you and I have a tendency to do that. One thing that I will make
do sometimes. Yes.
Yeah, I will notice I start like when you start asking me a lot of questions, in my mind I'm hearing that as you're not doing something correctly. So I need to ask you a lot of questions here to really dig at what is going on. And that's not it. You're just curious, right? I mean, that's all it is, right?
Yep. Right. And I love what they said is that sometimes you just need to change your filter.
Mm-hmm.
You're listening to this with the wrong filters on. And if you change your filter, maybe that can help and go a long way with understanding the basis for whatever that communication is.
Right. And one thing they mentioned, and I've said it a lot, we've both said it a lot, is assume positive intent. Always assume that your spouse has your back, has your best interest at heart. I mean, maybe there's moments where that's not the case, or maybe you're in a marriage right now where you're like, Brian, Heather, that's not what's going on with us right now. And totally understand that. I definitely don't want to dismiss that or discount that if there is a struggle and you really truly do believe that your spouse doesn't have your back. But if you're in a marriage that is pretty strong and pretty healthy, you're going to have moments where you're just going to have this quick snap, like, nope, my partner doesn't have my back. They don't care about me, or the reason that they're doing this is whatever. Like, for example, on the other end of the spectrum with me, when I tend to get quiet, you will assume that I've kind of dismissed what you've said and I don't care.
He's shutting the conversation down.
Yeah. And has that happened? Yes. And so that's probably what sticks in your mind. But lately when it's happened, I'm noticing I'm just sort of processing.
Right.
I'm actually, and we talked about this, I'm actually thinking ahead about, okay, she just said this, like, okay, how should we do this? What can we do? Let me figure out how to solve this. And my computer in my head is like spinning and no words are coming out. And then you're looking at me like, okay, I guess you don't care about what I just said.
Right.
And so I need to get better. I mean, well, number one, I know you said, hey, look, I'll kind of ask you what's going on right now. You're silent.
Right. Then, I have to change my filter.
Yeah.
And then I also need to ask, did you not agree with me, or are you processing? Are you just thinking about this? I need to probe a little bit to figure out why you're being very silent. So I mean, it just comes down to communication and understanding how your spouse works.
Yep. And one thing that I need to do is I need to catch myself being silent and verbalize and say, give me a second. Hold on. I'm thinking this through. Or maybe I need to say,
good.
What's that?
That would be good.
Yeah. Or maybe I just need to say, I'm sorry. I'm not sure why I'm trying to figure this out. We're not there yet. Okay. Let's keep talking.
Right.
All right. You got another common pain point?
Yes, I do. Parenting pressures.
Oh, boy.
I know all of you are saying amen to that. And Psalm 127:3 says, children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. And so they are a blessing from God. But when you're disagreeing on parenting, because, well, you probably have different parenting styles based upon the way you were raised and your ideas, your opinions, and things that you've learned along the way. And maybe you're even a blended family, and that, that makes it very tricky as well. I speak from experience there that parenting,
that was tough.
parenting is a source of contention. And so, what I want to say to that is come together on how you're going to discipline, how are you going to reward? Are you going to have requirements on the kids, like with chores and things expectations that you want for them? Again, going back to what Brian, you were just saying, you've got to communicate. You've got to communicate. You've got to figure out how you're going to parent these children, how you're going to even shift and change as times shift and change. And as your children grow older or a new child comes into the picture, you've got to do that. And it's so important to be on the same page, to be a united front in front of your children rather than, arguing or trying to figure out something in front of your kids. You don't want to do that in front of your kids. And you might even want to have conversations. I like to call them a preemptive strike. Mm-hmm. Should the child bring home a failing grade, what are we going to do? And maybe your child doesn't bring home a failing grade, but you just have that in your back pocket so that you're ready should that arise. So, yeah. Yep. I think I've said.
Yeah. But parenting is a big one.
It is.
That's one that it's not been easy for us because we are a blended family. Mm-hmm. I have a daughter from a previous marriage that we had to try to work together on, and it took a lot of effort for sure. And I'm sure we'll probably do an episode or two and talk a little bit about that. Some things that really worked for us, that really helped us, that we will share with you, but that will probably be for another time. So, but hopefully you are on the same page in parenting, but if you're not, just takes some effort and takes communication. The next one we want to talk about is burnout and stress. And if you are married for any length of time, you're probably going to deal with this one. The biggest sort of situation I can think about would be around work. If you're in a job that is very stressful and it's calling you to do a lot and there's a lot of demands on you, or maybe you have a boss that is difficult to deal with, then you're probably going to be dealing with burnout and stress. Or maybe it's a job that you really just don't like and you're just sort of bored. You're going to experience this. And I know in the time that you and I have been together, that has certainly been the case for both of us. For me, I worked in the corporate world for 20 years and I was bored. And then the very last job,
there was some burnout in you.
Yeah. The very last job I had was a very difficult situation. Some of the people that I worked with I just didn't mesh well with them. And so I think you kind of roll all that up. And unfortunately, I probably vented in a way that was not healthy for quite a while until we both agreed and made the decision for me to leave the corporate world and go back to school and become a therapist in private practice, which I absolutely love now. And I love helping people. And I would say right now I have a very minimal amount of stress, if any at all.
That's good.
And I knock on wood because I know at any time that can, of course, change. So,
right. I think if you do find yourself burnt out and stressed out over your job, like you do need to think about maybe, is it time to find something else?
Mm-hmm. That's right. And what I wanted to say too, Matthew 11:28-30 says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest."
Amen.
And go to the Lord with this.
That's true.
He will give you rest. You just let it go. Just give it to him.
Right.
He can take it for you.
Right. We're not meant to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders.
That's right.
And so, to make sure that you do find time to rest and relax. That's so important so that you're not burnt out and stressed and taking it out on your spouse.
That's right.
Yeah. Something else that can be a definite point of contention in your marriage that is very normal for a lot of people is financial stress. Money causes arguments. It causes marriages to split up. It causes so much pressure, especially if you are, under a mountain of debt or something like that. Like you feel the pressure of not having the money to do the things that you want to do. Or, to go on those fancy vacations or whatever, or to just make the car payment month to month, whatever it is. And Philippians 4:19 says, "And my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of his glory in Christ Jesus. And, I don't think that the Bible is telling us that we're going to be so blessed that we're going to be, supremely wealthy. Like, I don't really feel that that's biblical or scriptural. But what the Bible does say is that he will take care of us. He will take care of our needs. I speak from experience. I've seen it happen in my life so many times. I know that God is going to take care of me. He's going to take my $10 and he's going to do the loaves and fishes with it, and he's going to stretch it farther than I ever could. So, that financial stress it could cause a lot of problems between the two of you. So, we do have an episode on finances, and we've got some resource on finances that you might want to check out. But my tip here is to create a budget, discuss your financial goals, and let that sort of ease your stress that you have so that you're not, fighting with each other over the money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And so along with that, financial stress, sometimes that can be caused by somebody losing a job. And
that's true.
The next one we're going to talk about is loss of identity. And so when I think about us men losing our identity, a lot of times that happens when we lose our jobs. So if you've ever had a situation where you've been laid off or you've been fired or you decided to quit voluntarily, no matter for what reason that you've left a job, and if you are now sitting without one or have, I guarantee you're going to have those feelings. I did for a while, even though I voluntarily left the corporate world and went back to school. I started to question, what am I doing? I'm not bringing home any money. Doesn't the Bible talk about how I'm supposed to be a provider and I'm supposed to provide for my family? And even though we agreed that this was okay, I still struggled with it.
You really did. You really, really did. I do think that you had a little bit of a loss of identity there.
Yeah. And part of it was that we had thought, being Mr. Spreadsheet that I was, it was going to be 19 months. This was going to be how long that it was going to take to get my degree. And I think do some residency and my counseling. And then once got through that, all right, boom, we're going to get a job and it's all going to be good.
And your identity would magically return.
Yes.
Did not work that way.
Did not realize that before I was licensed as a therapist, it's a tough go because you can't take insurance. That means that your clients are paying a lot more. It's just a lot tougher. And so it wasn't until I got licensed, which really was like 3 years into the journey, 36 months. So it went from 19 months to 36 months. But just like Heather said a minute ago, it was like fishes and loaves. God took care of it. Yeah. What about, I was going to say, I think women can also have a loss of identity, right?
Right. I think so too. I know you and I worked with a couple who, the wife was a stay-at-home mom. She did work a little bit kind of out of the home, very, very part-time, but I do feel like she had a loss of identity of kind of who she was and what her purpose was. Mm-hmm. And, that might be you, and you're sitting there listening to this going, yep, that's me. I have no purpose. I have no job. I have no, yes, your purpose is to be a mother, but at the same time, you might still feel like it's not enough. You want something more. You want to do something. You want to help someone. You want to kind of get out there and be around people. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I guess by being in that situation, you might lose your identity of who you are. Right.
And I think it's important to take a look at hobbies, maybe groups that you can join. Maybe
clubs.
There's some courses that you want to take on, let's say you want to learn how to play the guitar, maybe you want to take a course on that, or
volunteering,
or there's all kinds of things that you can do, aside from, if it is a career situation that just can't be for now, maybe you're just creative and do it in other ways.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. You got another one, Heather?
I do. So when you're, completely stressed out with each other and there's all these pain points or whatever, it can be really hard if there's not good conflict resolution, if you're just sweeping things under the rug kind of thing. And I think so many of us do that. And you're not really resolving anything. You're saying, okay, it's fine, whatever, let's carry on. But nothing's ever been resolved. And so to learn how to resolve conflict in good, healthy ways, goes all the way back to, what's that word, that big C word, communication, and figuring out ways to actually solve some problems, and doing it in a good, healthy way. Ephesians 4:32 says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as Christ God forgave you. And so practicing some true forgiveness, and just showing love, speaking the truth in love with each other, and having understanding and empathy with one another to help you resolve some conflict, and having conversations. If there's a really big issue that you're trying to solve, list out all the ways that can be solved without saying, oh no, that's never going to work. That's never going to work. Just write it down on a piece of paper. We're like, what are your thoughts? How could we solve this? And then once you list everything out, look at the paper. The paper's the bad guy now, or the paper's the helper, cross out anything that doesn't work, pick something that you're willing to try, and then go for it. Like all in together, have some good conflict resolution. That can absolutely strengthen your marriage and bring about that forgiveness as you're communicating and you're loving one another. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's one. We don't argue very often, but I do know sometimes when we do, I don't practice good habits, like looking at you in the eyes and repeating back what I'm hearing, and taking, putting myself in your shoes and all that type of thing. Right. There's all kinds of things I'm still learning too, even though we're talking about these things. So
right.
Next one we want to talk about is community isolation. And this one was probably a lot more pronounced when we were all going through COVID. I mean, we remember this. And
right.
Wow, I can't believe it's been several years now since it was at its height. But, I mean, you probably all remember that churches were shut down for a brief period.
It was a very lonely, long time.
So work environments, a lot of people's work. Yours and mine were yours was for a period. Yeah, you work at a private school, and so there were some periods where it was shut down and you were doing the online thing. I was by myself in private practice. I did see more clients on video, although I still saw some people in person, but obviously with some precautions and the mask wearing and all that. But I do know that it can still even happen now. For all you introverts out there, this is my sort of encouraging word for you is don't let your introversion sort of be an excuse for, well, I don't have time, or it was COVID was the excuse before. Try to fight through that as much as you can.
Introverts get nervous about stuff like this. I mean, I am one, so it's a real thing.
Me too.
And we have to force ourselves to get out there, to join a small group at church, to get involved in a ministry or something, and build connections with people. That can be hard for the introvert.
Yep. What I would say in that little voice inside your head that says, I'm an introvert, so I don't want to be around people. Take the word so out and say something like, I'm an introvert and I want to be around people. You can be both. You can be an introvert and want to be around people. So
right, because I love being around people. It's just that initial act of like, is this going to work out? Is this going to be a good thing? Like, I don't know.
There's always this little twinge.
There is, because you had me take an assessment to, I don't know, we were talking about social anxiety.
Yeah.
Because you said that you had a little bit of social anxiety. I was like, oh, I want to take this assessment. Let me see what I have. And mine was worse than yours, which was like, whoa, yeah, that explains me a lot. Mm-hmm. So get out there and join a group, that's hard. But listen, y'all, we got to put the big girl pants on and just get out there and do it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And, if your batteries drain, obviously take care of yourself, but try to get out there.
Yes.
And let me read this, Hebrews 10:24 and 25. It says, and let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together. So again, the Bible and God tells us meeting together is extremely important. So get out there, build connections, participate. So and you will get rid of that isolation. All right. Okay. What do we got next?
We are, so with this one, this is a big pain point. We see this with the couples that we work with. Lack of romance. That is a big pain point. I mean, Somewhere along the way, romance goes out the door. Nothing's happening behind the bedroom door. There's barely any kisses or hugs. There's no more compliments. There's no more flowers. There's no more just, loving on each other and just pouring words of affirmation and love into each other. It's not happening.
Just get complacent.
Yeah, we do, because I think so many things happen after we say I do that we forget to do those things. We forget to put the priority on that. And so that lack of romance, you might be holding that within your heart and not telling your spouse that this is really hard for you, that you feel like you've lost that love with each other. What's that song? You've lost that love and feeling.
Don't sing too much. We might have to, it might be copyrighted. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh, nobody's going to, yeah, okay.
I know, nobody's going to sue us for that.
Yeah, they're going to be like, don't ever do that again. But I mean, I say, we joke around a little bit there, but it is so true that the romance is gone. And one of you, or maybe both of you, is very hurt by that. And oh my gosh, y'all, that leads to some people looking outside the marriage for that romance to be fulfilled. And we don't want that for y'all. God does not want that for you. And Song of Solomon, y'all, that's the love chapter in the Bible. Read that to each other. Song of Solomon 7:10 says, I belong to my beloved and his desire is for me. And if you think back to when you first got married, you loved each other immensely and you just desired each other. You wanted to be intimate. You wanted to be romantic. You worked towards that. That was at the forefront of your mind. And, you might need to have a conversation with your spouse that like, hey, how are you feeling about our level of romance right now? That's a loaded question, because you might not hear what you're hoping to hear. You might think that they're going to say, oh yeah, we're good. When they're over there saying, this is horrible. But it's so worth it to ask that. You need to know where each other's standing. And again, it comes back to the big C word, communication, about the romance, and how to keep that alive. Plan surprise gestures with each other, leave love notes for each other, do whatever you need to do to keep that romance alive. And hopefully that's going to lead to some good intimacy. This verse is fun. 1 Corinthians 7:3-5. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. If y'all want me to read between the lines for you, that means go have sex and make it good. Go make love with each other. Like, that's what this is all about. God designed that to be for you and your spouse, to be the one thing that you can do in your relationship that you're not doing with anybody else in any other kind of relationship. Friendships. Like you have relationships with hundreds of people, but not like this one. You want there to be that emotional intimacy, that physical intimacy, and you've got to prioritize each other emotionally and physically. You want to deepen that connection. You want to date each other, spend time with each other, have conversations about how you're feeling about romance and the bedroom and things like that. You like that, Brian?
I like it.
All right, we'll talk about that when we turn this off. But what I want to tell you is to head over to the website, because if you're kind of stuck and you're like, I don't even know how to go about, like, I don't know, just reconnecting with my spouse, because in order to have intimacy, in order to have a conversation about passion and romance, well, I don't even know how to even like go on a date with my husband or whatever. Guess what? On the website, we have some date night ideas. It looks like there might be 6 of them, because those can just breathe some life back into your marriage relationship. Some of these are free, some are inexpensive, some might be a little bit more, but it's really just to give you a jumping off point of dating each other again, because when you're doing that and you're just investing in each other, it brings back those good butterfly feelings and those good hormones. Brian, what are those love hormones that you've talked about before?
Oxytocin
Is
one of those.
We need some
that
oxytocin.
Is called the cuddle hormone.
A cuddle hormone. Is there a pill I can take? I want some oxytocin
Just pop a
right
pill.
now. Yeah. So no, but seriously, go check out the date nights, and if you try some out, we'd love to hear about it. And just I don't know, just we want the best for you in your marriage. And so just maybe you don't even realize that all of these things can be pain points in your marriage, and this kind of sheds some light onto it, but they are pain points. And being aware sometimes is half the battle. And then what are you going to do with it once you know that, that's a little bit of a problem? What are you going to do about that to bring yourselves closer to each other?
That's right.
Yeah.
And am I closing this out this time? Sure. Why not? All right. Thank you. I don't think we decided on who was going to do that. So sometimes it's just like a live baton pass.
It totally is.
As we're doing this, which is what I like. Sometimes we need to be spontaneous. That's what you all need to do. Be spontaneous in your marriage. So, but thank you for tuning in. As always, we do appreciate your time. We know that you are very busy, so you taking some time out of your schedule to listen to us, we do appreciate it. And we hope that everything that we've talked about, or at least one of these things that we've talked about, is something you can implement and make some changes to.
Absolutely.
So stick around. We have lots more episodes coming your way. Take care until then.